Hello everyone, welcome to our Dirty Bomb dev stream this evening. My name is Shu and I'm the community manager here at Splash Damage, and I'm joined tonight by game designer Smooth.
Why, hello there.
Hello Smooth, it's lovely to see you.
You having a good day?
I'm having a good day. I'm quite tired, but I'm having a good day. How's your day?
It was busy.
Very
busy, lots of stats, lots of data.
We are very busy at the minute. Well, we're always very busy. Busy. So, as you are aware, we do get lots of comments on Reddit on our both the Splash Damage forums and the official Nexon forums for Dirty Bomb, talking about things like Merc balance, weapon balance, competitive, etc., etc.
Yep.
So, yeah, what we did was we said, hey, we're going to get Smooth, who is in charge of and does a lot of these things with DB.
Yes, very involved with. I don't know if in charge of.
Very involved with. There we go. Yeah, very involved. Well, very involved with. Just one very.
Mm-hmm.
And get some more information on these things for you. And we're going to be discussing it right now in the stream for you. So, along with what we've just stated earlier, some of the topics that we have included tonight for you are Merc balance, weapon balance, augment changes, competitive matchmaking, maps, miscellaneous, which is kind of a combination of a few little extra random bits that we saw in there. And then I've also got a little section called shoe topics, which are things that I know the answer to, and
That's a lot smaller than mine.
It is, yeah. It's 4 bullet points
yes.
as opposed to everything else that we've got on the sheet here.
Like 50.
So, but I will try and add in anything that I know on these ones as well, so I can get some information in there too. Before we get started though, we will be taking some questions as we go through, but we're going to wait until the end of every section. When we've got one question or 1 point left that we're going to discuss, I'll let you know. So then if you do have any questions you'd like to ask at that point, we'll then you'll have some time to write them in Twitch chat. We can then look through a few of them and then move on to the next section after we've answered those. We'll also, once we've finished all of our sections and I've done my little shoe topics bit at the end, we're then going to move on to the computers and let Smooth show us his skills in Dirty Bomb. At that point, I will answer as many questions of yours that I can do, and I'll also take down any extra questions that you might have for us to look at after the stream, and then we can post our responses to those on the Reddit and forums as well. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing tonight for you. I do have Twitch chat on my phone because it's a little bit far away here for me to make out because my eyes are bad now. So I will be reading your questions from there. We're having a short intermission while we move from the sofa to the chairs, so it'll just be a couple of minutes while we get everything all set up. And all of the raffles and giveaways, they will be started when we get onto the computers to play some video games. So hold on to your raffles just for now. We'll let you know as soon as the raffles are open. And that's pretty much it. Would you like to add anything before we start into
No, you were incredibly thorough.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. So, okay, our first section that we'll be looking at today.
Merc balance.
Merc balance, yes. So, what factors do we look at when balancing mercs?
So, like you said earlier, we have a look at the forums, the Splash Damage forums and Nexon forums. We read Reddit a lot, and also IRC occasionally. I have chats on there with people from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing that we also use is Echo, which grabs data down from our servers and has things like Merc stats, Merc usage, kills with certain weapons, map balance. So we have a look at objectives, maps one's lost, that type of thing.
Okay, cool. And then how do we break down... Well, actually, just before we get into that, you mentioned Echo. Now, for those of them out there that don't know what Echo is, what is Echo?
So, okay. When we play games in Dirty Bomb, the server is constantly collecting stats based on events that happen in the game. And at the end of the game, those get sent to Echo. It's several gigabytes of data every day, I think. And from there, I take it out of Echo, I stick it into spreadsheets. I have everything from mercs to weapons to maps. I look at things like win-loss ratio and kills per minute and assists per minute and XP per minute and weapon accuracy and many other things that I can't really think of right now.
Lots and lots. So essentially it's just a tool that we can use to get lots and lots of broke down information from the game. Cool. And a good thing with that is it takes out like biased opinion. Like it's just these are the facts of what's happening. Yes. And then we've got our opinions and then the community have their opinions too. So there's like 3 main areas where we get information.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we take feedback from the community, you have to always take it with a pinch of salt, but People always want their favourite thing to be better,
Yeah.
and their least favourite thing, this person's overpowered because they kept killing me with this, and it's very useful to actually go into the data and see if that's actually true or not.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So how do we break down these stats?
Well, like I said, we have things
yeah.
like XP per minute, kills per minute, assists per minute, things like that for the Mercs. One thing I like to do with the weapons is split them down into what each Merc has, because every Merc has access to like 3 primary weapons, for example, and see how that Merc performs with those 3 different weapons.
Okay.
That's one of the things I do. When it comes to maps, we look at things like how much time each team spends alive, when objectives are completed, how often maps are won, how often maps are lost, and certain things like that.
Cool. So now, here's your chance to write some questions in chat. We'll be checking them out in just a moment, as we're at our last point for Merc balancing just for now, which is, so what are we planning on doing going forward with balancing Mercs?
Well, going forward, my ideal is to start using competitive mode a lot more for stats gathering and analysis. If we can make competitive mode more popular and we can get more people in there and I don't know, just have a generally more polished and balanced experience, then I think we can start using competitive mode to use win-loss as like the main measure for each Merc, rather than at the minute we use things like XP per minute and kills per minute and how long they spend alive. When it comes down to it, win-loss is the most important thing, and when we have competitive mode like properly full, polished, up and running, we should be able to use that to balance the Mercs. I think that's my ideal.
Now, we do know that there are a lot of opinions floating around at the minute about competitive mode, but we do have a lot of points about that a bit later on that we'll get to, about what we're planning on doing to do what you say with competitive, to make it more populated and more popular. So,
and refined.
And more refined and polished as well. So we will get to that bit a little bit later on. So for now, let's have a little bit of look at what comments we have here. First of all, from Spookify says,
Spookify.
do you use just for men, or is your beard that dark naturally?
My beard is this dark naturally. It's also very smooth, hence the name.
Ah, awesome. There we go. H says, do we have heat maps of player movements for the played maps?
Not right now, we don't, no. We had to turn this off when the game went into open beta, due to the sheer amount of data that was being recorded. At some point we want to enable it for a small subset of servers, at which point we'll get back to looking at that data.
Cool. Ken out of 10 says, that background is the Battersea Power Station, dockyard confirmed. No, we just thought we had it lying around, so we thought it'd make it a bit prettier than just a plain wall behind us.
It's an old piece of concept art. It looks good though.
Yeah, it's a very nice piece of concept art though. Crooked HD says, very important. What type of moustache should I go with for Movember? Push, broom / duster, or mustini and curl up the ends with wax?
I have no idea what those
I
are.
don't know what the other one is.
We need photos.
Yeah, send us pictures over on the Twitter and we will check
Bigger
that
and
out.
curlier is better.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. Just having a little bit quick through some more.
Anything good?
Oh yeah, people asking what happened to Turtle. Oh, don't worry. Turtle.
Where is Turtle?
Don't know where Turtle is. Turtle will be somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look. Try to keep your questions in relation to the topic that we have, because some of the questions coming in are for other things that we have coming in later on. So please do keep your questions to the topic that we have discussed. As for that, I think we can move on. Valve is asking about an augment for Rhino, of which we kind of come to. Not that one in specifically, but when we get there, you can ask that question about that augment, which is cool. So what we'll do is we'll move on now to the next one, which is weapon balance.
Oh yes, weapon balance.
So starting us off with weapon balance, could you give us a quick breakdown on the our philosophy behind weapons?
So generally, I think the most important thing to remember is that it's a game and weapons should be fun to use.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that we're not quite there yet for some of the guns, particularly some things like the Drice maybe, that we need to do a bit more on. But then also the next point is to make sure that all weapons that are available to each Merc are balanced.
Yeah.
So all the SMGs should be somewhat equal, the shotguns should be somewhat equal to the SMGs. Assault rifles should be fairly equal across the board as well. Balance-wise, like, situational, yes, but overall their effectiveness should be comparable. We don't want to have situations like we do now, quite frankly, where there are certain loadout cards that are noticeably better than others.
Yeah.
So generally fun and balanced, I think, is our general philosophy for the weapons.
Okay, cool. So we kind of touched on this earlier, actually, when we looked at Echo and Merc balance, but what factors do we look at, just to recover that for this section?
Okay, so for weapons, I mean, one of the important things I didn't mention for Merc is actually Merc usage.
Oh, okay.
We also have that for the weapons. So for every Merc, we have charts that will show us how often this weapon is used, how effective this weapon is when it comes to damage per minute, kills per minute, how accurate it is in both iron-sighted and from the hip. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think, when it comes to weapons. Assists per minute is another one that I use.
Yeah.
But the most important ones are kills per minute, damage per minute, and accuracy.
Yeah.
Across the three that Merc has available to them.
Oh, cool. Okay, how do we break down the stats again? We
That's
kind of looked at it
basically
already.
that already.
So what are we planning on doing, like, with them going forward in the future? Is there anything else we want to look at stats-wise, or is it just like...
I think weapon-wise, I've pretty much got everything I want there to go forward. Can't really think of anything else that I would like. One thing I would like is the ability to split up the stats a bit more in terms of looking at player levels, because at the minute we can look at the stats based on like its objective mode, execution mode, stopwatch, competitive even, and I generally focus on competitive, but I would love to be able to focus on like high level competitive, cobalt level, gold level, and be able to split up the stats that way, and hopefully that's something we can add soon.
Okay, cool. Right, so it's a very interesting topic now. Why do some things get nerfed and buffed?
Ah, yes.
Well, that's quite a wide topic as well. So
yes, generally I think we begin with when players are starting to complain about things.
Yeah.
That's not a very good place to begin. We should see things earlier than that. But at the minute, it's when we see things like the burst fire rifles are broken or the Dryce is crap, etc., etc. We then delve in and look deeper onto why that is. Because a lot of the time we playtest internally and we've got, a decent LAN set up, or we playtest with Nexon, and things like are nice and solid and perform well. And then in the real world, with the different latencies and different server performance and FPS and whatever, there's more issues that people run into. So, for example, like the burst rifle thing that we fixed recently, we identified a bug there, we fixed it, it's now a lot better, and we haven't actually changed the balance at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, from that, people in the wild, as it were, identify things that they think are too good or too crap.
Yeah.
And then we go in and look at the stats, and we see whether this is true or not. And generally we'll see that a couple of things aren't quite keeping up, or one thing in particular is way above the rest, and we then bring the top down and bring the bottom up and try and keep things generally level.
Yeah.
One thing I don't want to do is continually buff or continually nerf everything, because we end up then changing basically the time to kill of the game. It changes the whole feel of the game.
Yeah.
If we kept buffing everything, then people would start dying instantly all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not the type of game we are.
Yeah, it's more about that tracking aim and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Although maybe a bit too much tracking aim.
Yeah.
We need to get some more differentiation into our guns.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Cool. Wow, I look forward to seeing how we're going to be doing that going forward. So the next one, I suppose again you kind of just touched on this point in the previous question of why do you only balance weapons via accuracy instead of other stats? Now we do balance them via other stats as well.
Yes, we do. Well, primarily accuracy and recoil are the lowest risk things to change.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like fire rate and damage, I mean all of the weapons are very close when it comes to DPS output. If we went a bit too high on DPS output, even the most inaccurate weapon, when used effectively, would become the best weapon in the game because it would just kill people first.
Yeah.
So we try and keep all the weapons very close in terms of DPS. Changing fire rate is also quite difficult to change because it requires reworking the audio for the gun. But I try to look at things like reload time, raised lower speeds, ammo capacity, things like that. But they don't really affect the in-combat effectiveness of the weapon.
Yeah.
Which is why it comes down to accuracy and recoil. These are two things that we can change very easily, and we can see very instant changes in the gameplay. We also look at the accuracy charge. So, for example, if something is too is performing too well and is very accurate when iron sighted, increase the recoil. If something's not very accurate when hip fired, we reduce the spread.
Yeah.
And we tend to get weapons like in a nice even state after that. And for me, it's the easiest and most effective change, I think, for all of the guns.
Cool.
Even though I know people don't like randomness in their game.
Yeah.
So we're trying to reduce that as much as possible.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the iron sights can be quite tricky to see. Or they're not too... Yeah, they're a bit not accurate as well. So what are we doing to improve that situation?
Well, firstly, like some of the guns have iron sights that... Well, they're not really meant to be iron sighted. For the SMGs, for example, like they're meant to be close range spray and pray weapons to some extent, filling the air with bullets and not very good at range. So for those, we don't intend to have very good, easy to use iron sights. For other guns like the Dryce and the Grandeur, we definitely need to improve things there. We want to maybe even think about giving them red dot sights.
Yeah.
And basically anywhere that an iron sight isn't good enough, we do want to improve it a little.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, one of the points that's come up, again, like before, which we've had, is extra abilities for weapons. So one of the examples that was put forward to us is like the Blishlock giving twice as fast. Now, it kind of sounds like that would be almost like a weapon augment.
Yeah.
Is that something that we would consider for the game?
I mean, that particular example, probably not, because I am a big believer in consistency, and I like if this person has 100 health when they're on the floor, I want them to have 100 health no matter which weapon you're using.
Yeah.
But maybe further down the line we could look at things like weapon attachments and sights that can adjust these things.
Yeah.
But that's not really planned anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now we've got 5 kind of small points here, because there were a few specific questions asked about buffing or nerfing specific weapons out there at the minute, and also just kind of like just a few interesting questions. So we're going to run through these ones nice and quickly, and then we're going to be opening up the space for you guys to ask some questions. So have a little bit of a think, and after we've talked about Stoker's Molotov cooldown, we have one question left before we get into that point there. So if you do have questions, wait till we get to Stoker's Molotov, chuck them into chat, and then we can have a little look through them afterwards. So first up on the list is, have we considered buffing or removing the Blishlock to give Mercs access to better weapons?
Well, when it comes to loadout cards and weapons, we don't want to remove anything. I mean, players have worked to get these. I mean, the Blishlock may not be everybody's favourite, but it might be someone's favourite.
Yeah.
And we don't want to take away from people things they've already worked for or even paid for in some cases. Definitely looking at buffing it. It's not far behind the other weapons in a lot of cases. We recently improved the bounce on the sight because it was going actually off the crosshair, so that was more of a bug fix than a balance change.
Okay.
Now that's in, I want to have another look at it in a week or two and see how that's changed things.
Yeah.
So that's the Blishlock. It needs a bit of love.
Yeah. Cool. Then we've got someone asked if shotguns will ever be valuable after level 10.
Yeah. Shotguns are a tough one. They're very binary in a lot of ways. Getting them to work at both high level and not be overpowered at low level is quite a tough task.
Yeah.
I think we're getting there. I think ideally at the top end level is where it is more important that they're balanced. At the low end level, it's more about having fun.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the shotguns, I am looking at matchmaking data there, seeing how often they're used, seeing how effective they are. Generally, all 3 shotguns are doing quite well. The Hollands is lagging behind a tiny bit than the others, so that might get some love in an update or 2.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I remember we had one comment come through on a Steam review, because I go through those and read them all and put down the notes down into spreadsheets, and we look at that. And one of the comments was, is there any way we can make them less annoying at low level but more useful at high level? So it's essentially, it's really tricky, because I'd wish I'd like whoever wrote that just to read it back, because it means that we need to make them more powerful, or no, less powerful for easier levels, but then more powerful for higher ones. But if that's the case, that kind of sounds like they're balanced in the middle.
Well, that's something that we could actually do if we drastically change them. Maybe if we reduce the one-shottedness of them, and that reduced the annoyance at low level, but we made them a lot more consistent at range. We made them longer range, we made them fire faster, etc., etc. But then that removes some of the uniqueness, I think, of shotguns.
Yeah.
Like, shotguns are meant to be get up in your face, and that's where the power comes from. Then if every weapon becomes like mid-range, fire lots of shots, lots of times, all the fights tend to become the same, and other tactics like positional movement and things like that don't come into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The next one. Now, this is again quite a big discussion that we've got going on at the moment. Are there any plans to make the Timic better? As at the moment, the M4 is still superior. So, yeah, there are a lot of comments around this topic at the moment.
Well, in the last update, I think it went out Wednesday, there are a few changes to the Timic. Hopefully that brings it in line. It might not be quite enough, but I'd rather, do baby steps than overshoot and suddenly make the Timic an OP weapon, as it were. So yeah, I'm going to keep looking at that. Hopefully it's a bit better now. We'd like to hear people's thoughts, really. Yeah.
Cool. Let us know what you think about the changes that have been made to the Timic.
Next?
Now, pardon?
What's next?
What's next? Next is Stoker's Molotov cooldown. So if you have got questions that you'd like to ask us about weapon balance, then please do get them in chat now, and we'll be having a look at them after the following question, which again is going to be an interesting topic. So yeah, are we going to be decreasing Stoker's Molotov cooldown?
No, not really. One of the things we have to be careful with Stoker is that because his Molotov lasts 10 seconds, if we had too short a cooldown, people could just, like 2 or 3 Stokers could just stack Molotovs, constantly looping it on an objective or something. If the other team didn't have a counter to that, then they couldn't really do anything apart from hunt down the Stoker and kill him. So I'd rather look at improving it in other ways if people feel it needs improvements. We haven't really had a decent look at Stoker yet. People are still getting used to him in the wild. In a week or two, we can have another look, see how he's performing with the latest data, and see what people say as well, and see if it needs any changes. There is a bug right now where it doesn't do enough damage to BEV.
Okay.
That should be fixed soon. Probably tomorrow, I think Alex is looking at it.
Okay.
So, good stuff.
Good old cop. Does a good job, he does.
Yeah.
And then finally, for our weapon balance section, why is the Dryce bad and when is it getting buffed?
Why is the Dryce bad? Well, it's tough to use. It's a semi-automatic in a very fast-moving game.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to account for that more. Internally, it's used quite well. In high-level play, it's not lagging that far behind the other assault rifles. But generally, yes, it needs some love. We've made some changes recently to the semi-auto fire rate.
Yeah.
That should make that... Well, we fixed the bug there. That meant it was inconsistent depending on frame rates and latencies and all those things. So hopefully that's fixed and that helps a bit. So people should notice it fires a bit more quickly and a bit more reliably now. And again, it's one of those things we have to see how that impacts things and then make changes a bit later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Right, now let's have a little look at your questions. I saw a comment go through in chat saying he's not looking at chat, he's just looking at tissues on his lap. No, I do have my phone here, but we're looking at questions at the end of each section. So
there are a lot of questions.
Exactly, yeah, there are lots of questions. Farrelith, I can't type this fast. Yeah, good luck doing the roundup for this stream. Remember, the VOD will be available afterwards, so if you did miss anything, feel free to add some changes on there. So let's have a little bit of look here.
Weapons.
Overlord Kane says, why does Stoker's Molotov go on a cooldown when cancelled when other Mercs abilities do not? It feels really unfair to Mr. British Barbecue.
Well, we recently reduced this, so it goes on a tiny bit of a cooldown, only 10% of cooldown, which is 4 seconds, I believe. This is because, like Fragger, if he walked around like holding it cooked the entire time, and then could cancel it freely, he'd have a bit of an advantage there.
Yeah.
Like he could walk around the corner with this thing cooked, and hit someone square in the face instantly without having to spend the time aiming, raising, for throwing it. So that's why that's there.
Okay, cool. M86 Edit 2 says, any news on the Reviver, especially damage and hipfire accuracy?
So the Reviver is something that I've been looking at quite a lot. There is the quick charge perk at the minute.
Yep.
There's a bug with that allows it to basically have infinite ammo if you time it right. There was another bug there that the tapped fire was doing more damage than was intended.
Okay.
So tapped fire was actually higher DPS than charged fire. Again, it's a case of fixing these bugs and seeing what happens. One thing I'm thinking of with the Reviver is maybe adding a damage fall off.
Okay.
So it's not out-sniping snipers from the hip.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's something we're looking at again.
Yeah. Cool. Poisad says, will the Felix be tweaked so that it's actually viable in game? Right now, it's just a bad mower. The extra damage does nothing for his headshot multiplier, and you get worse reload speed and fire rate compared to the mower.
Yes, the Felix will get some love. Still trying to think exactly what we need to do there, since we've got rid of the insta-gib. I mean, it does have some advantages in that it will insta-gib players on a slightly higher health than the mower does, because people on like half health can be gibbed by the sniper rifles if you shoot them in the head still. We could increase its ammo capacity, we could have it reload a bit faster. We don't want it to be like, we don't want it to take a step too far in that it starts to one-shot Mercs to the body again.
Yeah.
We had that at one point, and then that became the de facto best sniper rifle. So we want them to be a bit more different, but still balanced. Just need to get around to looking at that one.
Ah, cool. Black Caesar says, would we be able to add a circle or some kind of indication to show how how Stoker's Molotov is going to spread?
Not really, because it's based on physics. When you throw a Molotov and it impacts with something, it actually spawns 16 individual points of fire, which will bounce around and land where they need to land.
Okay.
The amount of damage is based on how far from the centre of the fire the thing is. It doesn't, I mean, the difference between the middle and the edge isn't that great. But generally, yes, when you throw it, you don't actually know exactly how it's going to land.
Yeah.
If you throw it into a tight space, everything's going to bounce around and kind of land on top of each other. If you throw it on a big area, it's going to spread. If you throw it at an angle, it's going to spread across an angle.
Yeah.
So no, we can't do that.
Oh, cool.
Sorry.
Interesting. I suppose it does make sense, because if you throw it at a wall, it explodes, but then everything falls down
Yes.
to the floor as well. So if you were planning to throw it on the wall and you had a circle on the floor, it would make it super easy to know where everything was going. So skill ceiling there as well. Let's have a look. Oh, my chat questions moved.
Is it exploding?
It is exploding. Ah, here we go. Mosquito Burrito Amigo says, Red Eye's grandeur seems underwhelming in close mid-range combat. If you get shot at, it's very hard to hit your shots as it's too inaccurate while spamming. Well, that is a medium to long range rifle, so
Yes.
Ideally you wouldn't want it to be.
It's not meant to be that
short
effective
range.
in close range from the hip. It's meant to be more of an iron-sighted rifle.
Yeah.
It's effectively a battle rifle come automatic sniper rifle, which is why I think we need to add a scope to it or a red dot sight or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Grab a drink.
Yeah, no problem, go for it. And then I'll do one more now, just so we've got one on here. Let's have a little look. So the last one we'll do for this section is Torrent 1812. Will you lower the effective range on shotguns? It's very inconsistent, and sometimes you can die after one long shot.
Sometimes you can, yes. I mean, I wouldn't say it's well, it may feel inconsistent. Generally, we've done a lot of work to try and make the shotguns feel as consistent as they can. The first step we did was give them a very even bullet pellet spread.
Oh, it's like a star.
So, like if you shoot at a wall, you can see that the pellets are very evenly spread out. Because before it was very luck based, you could have 3 pellets hit the head or nothing hits the body at all.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we did. We've also made the fall off a bit more forgiving, because the shotguns were generally just underpowered compared to the SMGs. Like, people weren't taking the shotguns weren't performing very well. For every Merc where they had shotguns and an SMG available, everyone was taking the SMGs and doing better with them.
Yeah.
So we had to give the shotguns some love. Instead of making them even more like one shot to the chest in point blank range, I decided to go and make them a slightly bit better at mid range. The longest range shotgun is the Arnold 12, which Fletcher has by default.
Yeah. That's because it fires flechette instead of regular shots.
Flechettes, which are little darts which have little wings on them that fly a bit further but do less damage.
Yeah.
And yes, if he's iron sighting and all the pellets hit the head at range, he's going to do a lot of damage, but that's the power of that shotgun. Generally, I'm just going to keep a look on Echo, see how it's doing. I don't think we're going to see any nerfs to the shotgun in that regard.
Okay.
Anytime soon, anyway.
Cool. Awesome. Righty. Next section we've got moving on to is augment changes. Now, this is just one point that we've got on here, which is what are we planning to do on that. So, if you do have any questions about augments, feel free to get them into chat now. We'll go through a few of those. But as for now, what are we planning on doing to augments?
Well, the past week or two we've been looking at improving some of the lesser used augments like Sneaky and Enigma.
Yeah.
The ones that players didn't really like that much.
Yeah.
Seeing what we could do there, just generally buffing them and giving them some love. A bit later on we're thinking of reworking some of the augments, like Pineapple Juggler, for example, which is difficult to use and I think everyone would agree is probably the most useless augment in the game. Initial ideas for that are making it like you can melee back projectiles rather than having to look at them and pick them up.
Yeah.
So Fragger throws something at you or Skyhammer throws something at you, hit your melee, knock it away, especially effective with the cricket bat.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And yeah, generally we just want to get into a good place where there's no... Well, there's always going to be an optimal build.
Yeah.
Just for the nature of the way things are, but we want to make it less obvious. We want to make some of the other augments more desirable and balance things out, make things more even. So players don't get a loadout card with Pineapple Juggler and go, crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, let's have a little look on here. Quartz HD says, is lock-on finally fixed on Fletcher?
Yes, it is fixed on Fletcher. On Fletcher, lock-on reduces the time that it takes sticky bombs to detonate after you've triggered them. So I think the default value is something like 0.35 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's very small, the window, but there is a noticeable difference there, and it does make a difference when you're using him. That like 130 milliseconds between lock-on or no lock-on, the player could be a bit further away, a bit closer. It just makes things a bit more immediate.
Yeah. Okay. Overlord... Oh, no, not on there. Mr. Badman says, when is Pineapple Juggler being removed? I've never seen anyone use it.
Well, like I said, it's... One limitation we have with changing augments is that, again, people have these out there already. People have paid money, they've got cards with Pineapple Juggler on. Instead of removing these things entirely, we want to improve them. Make Pineapple Juggler better, make it useful. And that's kind of the approach we take with all the augments. We're not going to remove anything or replace anything, we're going to change how it works in game.
Yeah.
And make it better that way.
Okay, cool. And then the last one we'll look at is Valve says, the Ice Cold Augment for Rhino still does not work. They've checked it. Will it be fixed? It
will be fixed. The bug went across my plate today.
Okay.
Naxus raised it with me, so someone probably told him.
Yeah.
We found the bug. We've put it in the database. Hopefully should be fixed soon.
Awesome. Cool. Good old Naxus doing his job again.
Yeah, that guy.
He likes doing that. Lovely. Cool. Oh, there he is. He's in chat now.
Hi.
He's just written, hey Jack, lovely to see you. Right, so the next thing we'll be moving on to is competitive matchmaking.
Big topic.
It is a very big topic,
yes.
Of which we do have quite a few bullet points here for us to run through.
Yes, I have a lot written down.
So our first one is plans, and in brackets we've got rank seasons, elo system, friendly fire, and drafting. So what are our plans for competitive?
I mean, the very first thing we need to do is improve the matchmaking algorithm and how our ranking system, which uses elo, works. The biggest problem we have right now, I think, is that players are not moving up or down ranks nearly as quick as we thought they were going to.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at that and addressing that. I mean, I've looked at the stats and we don't actually have any bronze rank players.
Okay.
When players start matchmaking, they start at the very top of silver, bottom of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And no one ever makes it all the way down to bronze.
Okay.
Players make it up to cobalt, but this is typically like 2, 3, 4, 5-man teams. Consistently winning over and over and really grinding their way up that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we need these things to be quicker because we're looking at introducing ranked seasons, which will probably be monthly or bi-monthly seasons where at the end of each month we're going to reset the ranks and players have to go again.
Okay.
One thing that we'll have to do with ranked seasons is obviously reward people.
Yeah.
for getting high ranks. We're not entirely sure what those rewards are yet, but we want to have ranked seasons, we want to add rewards. That's one of the first things we're going to be doing with competitive matchmaking.
Cool.
Friendly fire was the next point.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to enable it in competitive.
Hey.
We need to fix up a few things with the kick votes and test it a bit more, but I think soon we'll be pushing out a competitive update that has friendly fire enabled.
Cool. Awesome. Let's have a little elo system.
Yes, that's what I was just talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to improve it. We've made some changes recently, which have actually increased queue times for 5-man teams.
Yeah.
It's also made it a lot less likely for single solo players to come up against a 5-man stack. We're also looking at, I don't know, what else are we looking at? I wrote it down somewhere.
That's right. Well, we've got a little bit of an elo thing a bit later on as well,
yeah.
so
I think
we'll
I've
look
got
at
it
it
in
in
more
that
depth
then.
later.
And the last one was drafting, question mark.
Drafting, question mark. Yes, I think it's something we definitely want to try at some point, a single Mercs drafting mode, maybe with the option for players to swap out for 1 or 2. It's something we'll definitely give it a go and probably see it in private matches first. If people don't know what drafting is, I mean, it's very similar to MOBAs, where everybody selects a unique Merc or hero when it comes to MOBAs. And so you have 5 unique against 5 unique, and I think it lends itself to a much more interesting style of gameplay.
Yeah.
Less cookie cutter builds and things like that. I think our one would have to be slightly different in that we'd have to allow mirrors, in that we'd have to allow at least like 1 nader on each team and 1 fragger on each team.
Okay.
But on each team, those Mercs would be unique.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's drafting.
Okay, cool. Right, so desync spawn timers has been something that's come up quite a bit.
Yes.
What position is that in at the minute?
So a lot of players from our previous games, Wolf ET, RTCW, well that was ours, but players from RTCW that moved to Wolf ET, ETQW, things like that, have brought this up over and over.
Yeah.
And they would like to have, say, attackers spawning with 20-second spawn waves and defenders spawning with 25-second spawn waves. And it's not something we've ever really wanted, basically because of the random factor it introduced, in that you will sometimes get good spawn waves and you'll sometimes get bad spawn waves on attack. Sometimes the defenders you'll meet them and they'll have 5 seconds left on their spawn. Sometimes you meet them and they'll have a full respawn. And that's not something you can really control. What we are looking at doing is trialing something called offset spawn times, probably in private matches, which is where the attackers probably spawn in a few seconds earlier than they do now, but both teams would still have like 20 or 25 seconds. And that just means attackers will get to the front line a bit earlier and get to the first objective a bit earlier, for example, and have more chance to complete the map.
Yeah. Okay, cool, interesting. It'll be nice to see how those pan out going forward.
Yep.
So we touched on this earlier. We've got team balance. So we've got PSR, which is public skill rating. How is it made and how is it being changed?
So public skill rating right now, I think in the live build out there, is simply an average of your score per minute over your last 15 games. Those 15 games have to have been like 5 minutes or longer for it to actually log, because otherwise a short game doesn't really make for a good average. And that's basically how it works. It's a very simple system, but we went with score per minute or XP per minute instead of things like kills, because the score already includes kills. And all Mercs can be effective and useful to their team and get that XP per minute, and it's a very good indicator because it takes into account support, it takes into account combat, and also game mode, like doing the objectives and that. So that's how it works. How it's going to be changed is, well, firstly we're going to be using a much longer average, probably something like your 25 previous games. We're also going to be excluding any game that's shorter than 7 minutes to make that a bit more accurate as well. And the final thing I'd like to do is actually put more weighting onto the match you're currently in when people do a shuffle by skill. They vote that in. And the other thing I'd like to do is actually, if you're on the same server and you're sticking around, is to use your performance in the previous match as like a big weighting in that indicator of how skilled you are.
So say you're like having a bad day, then it's not that great, but if you're having a really good day and you're like just playing
Yeah.
really well.
Because I think there can be instances right now where like two players are performing really well currently and you'd expect them to be put on different teams. But because the PSR is a historical based thing, they could be put on the same team because someone who's not playing so well today has a really high PSR.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So hopefully that will make things a bit better.
Okay, cool, awesome. Now again, this is something which has come up quite a few times. How does ELO work for individuals and as a team? So does it change equally per player per match? Or does each player have their own and get different additions to it?
This is a complex one. So I'm going to assume that the person asking this question kind of knows how ELO works.
Yeah, let's assume that.
Let's assume that. If you don't know, like, wiki it.
ELO is very, very complicated. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
But
so
when it comes to Dirty Bomb, each player has their own ELO rating, which is represented by the ranks. Each team then gets, well, you get 10 players, they go into matchmaking. If they're all solo queuing, we can nicely balance them across the two teams, and then we take the average ELO rating of each team, and then we figure out how likely that team is to win a match.
Yep.
At the end of the match, when a team wins or loses, the winners will gain points, the losers will lose points. The winning team will gain points based on how likely they were to win. So if they were a high skilled team and they're very likely to win because much higher skilled than the other team, they're not going to get many points. If the other team was much higher skilled than them and they win, they're going to get a load of points.
Okay.
We do use the team against the team average rather than individuals because Dirty Bomb is a team game.
Yeah.
But also there would be instances where, say you have a Cobalt player and a Silver player on the same team. The Cobalt player would have his high skill rating matched against the other team, and the low skill player, the Silver player, would have their skill rating matched against the other team. If they win, the Cobalt player's probably contributed most. But if we matched his individual skill against the other team, he would win the least amount of points, even though he's contributed most.
Okay.
And the Silver player, who probably didn't contribute much at all, would get a massive boost in ELO, which is another reason we do team versus team, is to prevent boosting of players. So that's ELO.
Awesome. Cool.
I hope people understood that.
Well, if you didn't understand that, or if you would like some more information, just pop it onto Reddit or the forums. We'll pick it up, and then we can give you a bit more information there if you need it. Next one. Kind of a broad question, I'd say. How will you make competitive more balanced and more enjoyable?
We need to just get more players in there. That's how we're going to make competitive better. So we need to incentivize players getting in there. That's what kind of the ranked seasons are for, and the rewards at the end of those seasons. We need to make it more balanced by fixing the ELO. We just need to make the whole thing more polished and refined as well. Fix the bugs that are there, introduce things like pausing, stuff like that. And yeah, get more people in. The more people you have matchmaking, the more balanced the game's going to be, the more fun everyone's going to have. It's kind of like an upward spiral or a downward spiral.
Yeah.
So we need to reach a critical mass of people playing and just kind of incentivize people to play it when they get to level 7, and it should start its own roll down the hill.
Cool. But in a good way.
In a good way. Roll up the hill.
Good roll up the hill. Have we considered splitting competitive into solo, duo queue, and also team queue?
Yes, we definitely have. Probably a solo duo queue and then a 5-man queue is what we've been considering. Right now, we don't have enough players to do it.
Yeah.
We need to keep we can't split the player base that's matchmaking because it's small enough as it is.
Yeah.
And 5-man teams would probably never find a game if they had to match other 5-man teams.
Yeah.
At least not within their skill range, which is the biggest problem. You would have Cobalts against teams of Silvers, which wouldn't be fun for anybody really.
Yeah.
When we get enough players in matchmaking and the pool's big enough, hopefully we can introduce something like that. I know a lot of other games do it, and I know it works well.
Yeah.
But not right now.
Okay, cool. We've got one question left, so if you want to start getting your questions into chat for the end of the section, please make sure that they are focused on competitive matchmaking or one of the topics that we've discussed within that point there. Yeah. Anything that's about anything else we'll be breezing over just because we've got still more points to get through. So yeah, please put in your competitive matchmaking questions now. And to finish it off, we've actually kind of already touched on this as well. will we be able to offer competitive support like friendly fire being on in matchmaking servers and also better prizes?
Well, we just said both of those things.
Exactly, yeah. So
Prizes for matchmaking and friendly fire on. I can't say when because we still have to do quite a bit of work there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something we want.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of kind of updates that we kind of talked about here
Mm-hmm.
coming in a few updates time.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes open for that, for more information coming.
Questions.
So let's have a little look at questions here. Spookify says, what kind of unique rewards might you give? Skins or what else?
There's many things that are up in the air. I don't really want to say anything in particular because it might turn out as gospel and oh, why didn't you give us that thing? Smooth said it would be cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, loadout cards, skins, things like that.
Yeah.
What we'd be thinking of. Maybe credit bundles. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's-
There's a whole variety, like
Yeah.
even badges in your profile and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like specific things. There's loads of things that we.
There's
can do.
nothing there that's nailed down yet, so I don't
Yeah.
really want to go into too much detail.
Cool. Q-Eater says, can we expect execution mode in competitive with 16 rounds? Well, I think that was one of the points that I've got on my list here. So it would be quite cool to see. Well, feel free to pop in as well.
No,
it would be
thirsty.
really cool. It would be nice to see competitive execution, but as Smooth touched on earlier with SoloDuoQ and also 5-man queues for standard like stopwatch competitive, one of the main factors of that is, of course, the size of the player base. Now, if we were to introduce competitive execution as well, that kind of splits it down even further, which means at this current time with the game, it would take a long time for people to get matches because they'll be just on there waiting for other people to queue for it. So for now, there isn't really enough of that player base to warrant us adding in competitive execution, but it would be nice to see that in the future, and I don't think we've there's no reason for us to not do that in the future when we get the player base.
Well,
So-
if we expand on execution maps or
Mhm.
the execution mode in general, perhaps it will become more popular.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be nice to see. I think it's definitely a mode with a lot of promise.
cool. Notati Jerry says, could you explain the first, middle and end bit again? We've gone too far.
I'm sorry, we don't have that much time.
Waffle Monster says, are you going to add rewards for playing matchmaking games to encourage more people to play it? We've already said we want to do that.
Yes.
So yes.
But not
what the-
missions, because people don't like those missions.
Yeah, not missions. The Real Hickey says, I think it would be a good idea to have organised scheduled tournament matches specifically for pre-made 5-man teams. Well, DB Nation do those already. We don't have anything built into the game for that yet, but there are community-run tournaments. So if you are looking for something to do, check out dbnation.gg. That's their website, or also on their Twitter is dbnationgg. They run them pretty much like almost every weekend. There's one coming up this weekend as well, which is both NA and European. So yeah, check out
Are we
DB
playing
Nation.
in that one?
At the moment, we haven't got a team ready to go in that.
We should
so
ask Tumic.
we'll have a chat to Tumic when he's in. He's a bit poorly today. He wasn't in today. Bless him.
Poor Tumic.
Pandaratata OR666 says, have we considered buffing the C4?
Buffing the C4, in what way, would one ask?
How would you like to see the C4 buffed? Chillax says, when can we rejoin private matches when someone disconnects?
You should be able to rejoin program matches. I'm not actually sure on that one. It's more of a technical question.
Yeah. Naxus! Right,
Yes,
make a note.
Naxus. You can answer in the chat right now.
Yeah, Naxus can do that now. Naxus, do it. Mr. Badman says, have we ever considered having larger competitive games like 6v6 or even bigger?
We've thought about it. I mean, 6v6 would be the absolute maximum. We went with 5v5, generally, because it's easier to get a 5-man team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we designed the maps around. 6v6 is probably my preferred public play, because it allows for one player to drop out and that to be filled in. It allows for a bit of churn.
Yeah.
But I think the game's built around 5v5,
Yeah.
and that's the way we want to keep it.
Okay, cool. Interesting. H says, spectating like ETTV. Well, we've put a lot of updates up for the Spectator client recently.
I
with the
think
HUD
he's talking
improvements for
more
execution.
about relay servers.
Okay, yeah.
In that you would have a server that connects, and then everyone connects to that server, and you can have thousands of people watching.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Down the line, but quite a way down the line.
Yeah.
That type of system. along with things like spectator slots and general like tournament coverage.
Yeah.
Is something we would like. When it can come, I can't say.
Okay. Awesome. And let's see what else is there. From in Linverted says, my mate and I duo queue and we are both Cobalt 1. Our last queue never popped and we waited 1 hour and 6 minutes. Will this be fixed?
I will have a look into that. Duo queue shouldn't really have that many restrictions. You should still be finding players. Probably, I think it's within something like 10 ranks of you, and everybody's pretty much within 10 ranks of you at that level. So it sounds like a bug that we need to look into. Okay.
Naxus, do it. Bug it. And the last one we'll look at for this one here is from Pumpkin Meerkat. Ooh. And they say, Dirty Bomb, will SD create an official competitive rule set that can be implemented in comp matchmaking as well as tournaments?
Yes.
Well,
that's effectively what the drafting mode is going to be. I mean, it's something we'll have to trial and we'll have to talk to people and fine-tune it.
Yeah.
But yes, eventually that's probably going to be the competitive rule set that we want to go with.
We did actually have talks about this a while ago with community members that were setting up tournaments, because they actually were trying out different ideas that they had for different rule sets. So like Merc allowances and
Highlander mode.
Exactly.
There could be only one.
Ooh, exactly. Yes. So we are kind of like discussing potential options as well with tournament creators out there to see what rule sets they want to use, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what other changes we can do going forward with it, whether or not we do such things as Highlander, like drafting and such in the future. So it would be, we want to get feedback, because we don't want to just go, right, this is the rule set, do it. We want to get feedback first, see what you guys feel about it, and then kind of working on it to build that rule set which everyone is kind of like happy with and can work with.
Yes, and also fits with the game.
Exactly, perfect. Cool, so moving on now from competitive matchmaking, we have now got maps. Now there's only a couple of bullet points for maps. Of course, you don't really do anything map related at all.
I look at map balance and send that forward to the level designers, but generally the level designers make all the decisions there.
Yeah.
Massey.
Yeah, well, these questions will probably be absolutely fantastic for Matty, but as they kind of popped up a few times in the forums and Reddit when you were asking us to answer certain questions, thought I'd just touch on them quickly now.
Indeed.
So the first one is, what is the current status of maps? Are old maps being reworked or new maps being reworked on? New maps being worked on. Sorry, I've got extra reason.
The priority right now is still new maps. We need more maps out there.
Yeah.
We've got quite a limited pool right now. We're doing okay. But yes, new maps are the focus. Reworking old maps is definitely something we want to do, but due to the way they were built, it will take a long time to actually rework them. Like, it's almost as much work to rework an old map as it is to make a new map from scratch these days.
Yeah.
Once we have a couple more new maps out there, hopefully we can start going back and reworking the older ones to improve them.
Yeah.
Especially the last objective of Train Yard.
Okay. Cool. Interesting. And then I suppose this one kind of touches on that, but it's also a bit different. So recently we had Dome go fully live, all arted
Indeed.
up. We had some updates going into it in the last update, which messed around with the first objective, making it a bit more attacker biased.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually works soon.
Yes, we'll check that out with your special data means. But these two questions, which I've kind of merged into one, is: do we plan to update existing maps or make new maps to be like Dome?
I think one of the good things about Dome, and something we haven't really been able to pull off until now, is that it's a lot more strategic and tactical. I think secondary objectives play a massive part.
Yeah, they're now a big focus in it.
I think that's something we would like to carry on and also take back to the other maps. Give people a few more alternate routes based on secondary objectives. Things like that. Personally, I mean, I'm not speaking for anybody here, I do think that the Dome's travel times are a tiny bit longer than they need to be in some cases. Like, the distance to the front line can be, 15 to 20 seconds, where in most maps it's a little bit shorter than that.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think we'll make a map as big as Dome ever again, but I think we'll try and take what we did well there and continue that in new maps.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's all about learning from our previous and making sure everything that comes from that, we implement those learned learned things.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, right, so if you have any questions for us in regards to those mapping bits, please do pop them in chat. Although I have seen that Massey, because he is lovely, he's actually in chat right now answering a few questions as well. So actually,
He's a legend.
With Massey in there doing that, he is the map man. So I'm going to let him do that in chat, so please do. If you want to tag at Massey in chat and ask him a couple of map questions, I'm sure he'll be happy to get to you. Although if they do pop up and I catch them, I will try and answer them as well. But Massey is the man. Pop him into chat. He's saying hello now, so he's definitely on board with that. And we're going to move on to the second last topic that we've got, which is our miscellaneous topic. Misc, yes. So here's just a few kind of random things which popped up, which we'd like to address quickly for you too. The first one being, will loadout cards be rebalanced?
Yes. Loadout cards are always being rebalanced in the fact that we're always looking at weapons. We're now looking at augments too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always going to keep an eye on it. When we make changes, we'll have another look. We'll never be done with balance, I don't think. The game's always going to evolve. We're always going to add new things. Every change is going to impact balance. So, yeah, every update, we'll see what happens. We'll make changes based on that. We'll see what happens. We'll make changes based on that. We'll add a new Merc. That will change things.
Yeah.
We'll turn on friendly fire. That will change things a lot.
Yeah.
So, yes, loadout cards are always going to be rebalanced. But not changed,
yeah.
I think, is the key thing to get across. We're never going to remove anything or add anything to the existing loadout cards.
Okay, cool. Now, one type of objective we had a long time ago were hack objectives, which consisted of a point which you had to hack. So you stood there for quite a while, hacking away, doing hacky type things to hack it to then win. Will these objectives be coming back at all?
Probably not. Not at least in the way that they were implemented before. I mean, firstly, because hack objectives are very similar to the repair objective in their mechanics. You go up to a thing, you hold down the button for 10-15 seconds, and then the thing is done. That's not exactly the most exciting way to play a game, which is why we've moved more towards C4. That's something you can place down and then go back and cover, or carry objectives. These are things where you have a bit more input on what's happening around you. Also, it's not really something we want to introduce to other Mercs either. I think a lot of people are asking about hack because they want, say, the Mercs like Vasily to go in and do an objective. And he's not built to do that. He's built to be at long range, to stay back, to spot out people. Yeah. That's Vasily. That's what he's meant to be doing. He's not meant to be forfeiting that, chucking down his sniper rifle, running up and arming a C4 charge or hacking anything. Yeah. So not the way hacks were implemented before. I mean, we may see another objective method at some point down the line, but it is very likely that it would be the type of thing that Proxy would be good at. Or Bushwhacker would be good at.
Definitely.
For example.
Awesome. What can we expect in regards to client-side demo tools?
Client-side demo tools?
Yep.
Well, being an Unreal Engine 3 game, we can't really support client-side demos. What we're planning on doing is, well, we record server-side demos now at the minute. We can grab those off the server manually and we can play them back and view them and see what happens. So when people report bugs, we can refer to them if we want to. Client-side demos is not something we can do, but server-side demos is something that we'd love to do. We'd love to have a website or a system in-game where players could go to their previous matches, download a server demo based on that, play it back in-game. This is all a lot of work and it's quite complex because it involves several parties, like our server provider. It involves Nexon hosting things. It involves us implementing proper demo playback. So it's quite a bit of work, but it's definitely something that we want to do, and it's definitely something that's needed if competitive is going to take off. Because competitive without demos, people are always going to be worried about those cheaters. People are going to want to be able to watch back these demos, firstly to just verify a result and look back at cool moments, but also to make sure that that person wasn't wall hacking, were they? And demos are a good way to verify that or not. So it's something we definitely want to do.
Cool. Will we ever be able to review previous matches and also see more stats in profile?
Well, the profile page just went in. It was the Contain More update.
Yeah.
Brought the loadout, the stats page. Yes, we definitely need to add more things there. We should be adding ability stats. We would like to add things like competitive stats. Just generally more detail is better there. What's there right now is very first pass and what we could implement quite quickly.
Yeah.
So we're going to elaborate on that and see what more we can do there. What was the other part of the question?
The other one was previous matches and more stats in profile.
So previous matches it will probably come along with the server side demos.
Yeah.
Because you'll need a way to go back and look at your previous matches when you're looking at these. So go back to a previous match somewhere in a page, download the demo for that, see what stats there were in that match, who won, who lost, kills, deaths, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Okay, cool. And then the last one for this miscellaneous topic section here. As well, I'm not going to be taking questions after this one because this is just a few like random topics that we had come up. As soon as we get into gameplay, I'll then go through your chat, answer all your random questions that are there, and also make notes for other ones that I can't do as well. So you can focus fully on playing the game, killing people, and having fun.
Get in the zone.
Exactly, yeah. So the last one of miscellaneous is, will Echo stats ever be made public?
I think eventually, yes. Right now, Echo is a very manual process for me. It takes me a day or two for each release to download everything, put it into the relevant files, sort it, filter it, stick it in Excel, and then we have Excel files that are very unwieldy, that are like gigabytes worth of data.
Yeah.
And then I analyze it and I email it around the team. We should be getting that automated at some point. When it becomes automated, hopefully we can then expose these things in an API somewhere, something like that. By the time it becomes something that we allow players to see, it probably won't be the Echo system anymore. It'll be a different system called Fireline, but I mean to players that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I think like the ideal end goal for me is something like the Dota Buff website they have for Dota, which if you go to dotabuff.com you can see all of those things. It has stats on all the heroes, it has win-loss ratios, it has kills, it has your own previous data, it's got pretty much everything. So ideally, like that's the end goal. We have a system like that and all these things become public.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we will post the occasional graph and chart if we need to justify a controversial decision. And I mean, if players ask for anything in particular, we can probably make that available too.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much. That's that end of that miscellaneous section there. Now, time for Shoes topics, of which you'll also be able to kind of help out with a couple of them too. But I'll do my best to see. So, one thing that keeps coming up in the community is customizable crosshair options. Now, at the moment, a lot of you out there will be using Mumble crosshairs or something similar, so you can have your own kind of custom setting on there, away from the dot option or the standard crosshair option that we use currently in the game. So customizable crosshairs is something that we do want to implement. However, we just have currently other features which are taking priority over us doing that. It's more of a like cosmetic thing with the game, and as there are third-party kind of like solutions for it at the minute, it's not massively high up on our list of priorities because, yeah, it will take away from other productions.
It's been on the list for years now
Yeah.
as something we want to do, but there's always something that's that bit more important than it. I definitely want to get it in, especially the more dynamic crosshair, the one that indicates weapon spread.
Okay.
It would be great if we could have more options, aesthetic options for crosshairs that still use that, because I think it's actually very useful to players to see what the current spread of the weapon is, and players who turn it off, I think, are at a slight disadvantage there, honestly. I'd like to see more people using it, especially at high end, just so they can get a better feel for the weapon and actually see what it's doing. But yes, I realise to do that we need to make that crosshair a bit less distracting. Yeah. Which is where customizable crosshairs come in.
Okay, cool, thank you. The next one is, and this gets asked quite a bit, is can we expect an SDK for the community to make maps and skins? Now, this is something which pops up quite often, and again, we kind of reply to it quite often too, but just to reinforce that now for you guys, an SDK is something that we definitely want to do. It would be awesome to be like, hey look, here's all the tools, go make maps, make skins, make all this cool content, send it our way, we'll review it, and then put it out there for tests. But the thing with it is that it would take us a lot of time in order to create this SDK, and in that time it would stop us from actually kind of producing stuff for the game. So it would either be we carry on, you know, updating it, putting content in the game, or we stop everything for about 6 months to create this SDK for you guys then to be able to make content. So that's where we're kind of at it with it now. We would love to have it, but we've still got lots more content that we want to put into the game before we start focusing on something like that.
Yes, it wouldn't be SDK in the traditional sense where you can do pretty much everything. I think what we really want to release is a map making tool that has our assets in there, and also a skin tool.
Okay.
Because these are things that players could be making, and quite effectively, and lots of them, and things that we could be reviewing quite easily. And then maybe further down the line include things like custom animations and effects and stuff like that. And ideally have something like the Steam Workshop system, where the most popular things eventually make it into the game officially.
Yeah.
If they're sold, we could give people a slice of the revenue. I mean, this is all me theory crafting at the minute, but that's the type of thing I would love to do.
Okay. Awesome, cool. This one we talked about earlier, which is will we be able to play competitive execution? So I'll pop over that one as we are we're quite quickly running out of time. And the last one is when will you be putting more effort into competitive, and can we do a Q&A with the top players? Now, again, we said earlier on in the stream that we do want to put more effort into competitive, and we have a few updates time where we will be implementing a lot of these updates and changes to the competitive matchmaking scene, which is cool. And yes, doing a Q&A with top players is something that we definitely will be doing to get their feedback and get their views on how they see like competitive going in the future, what changes, what updates they'd like to see in that, and we'll take that on board when we plan and make these changes.